Hello, my name is Natasha Rodriguez, and today I will be talking about the Chinese immigrants that refused to register from the year of 1892. So the Chinese Exclusion Act required the new non-laborers who sought entry to the United States, such as diplomatic officers, to obtain certifications from the Chinese government that they were qualified to immigrants. But this group found it increasingly difficult to prove their status because the 1882 Act defined laborers as skilled and unskilled, and Chinese employed in mining. Thus, very few Chinese could enter the country under the 1882 law. The 1882 Exclusion Act also placed new requirements. So the Chinese who had already entered the country, if they left the United States, they would have to obtain certifications to re-enter. Congress, moreover, refused state and federal courts of the rights to grant citizenship to Chinese resident aliens, although these courts could still deport them. The Exclusion Act expired in 1892. Congress extended it for 10 years in the form of the Geary Act. This extension made permanent to 1902 that has added restrictions requiring each Chinese resident to register and obtain a certificate of residence. Without a certificate, they would face deportations. The Geary Act regulated Chinese immigration into the 20th century. With increased immigrations following World War I, Congress adopted new means for regulations, quotas, and requirements pertaining to national origin. Congress shifts its attention to limiting immigration from a wider variety of countries, including many in Southern and Eastern Europe and all of Asia. The Immigration Act of 1921, also known as the Johnson-Reed Act and the National Origins Act, established the 1890 census as the basis for determining how many immigrants would be admitted. The limit for each nationality was 2% of that nationality already living in the United States and recorded by the census takers. In 1943, when China was a member of the Allied nations during World War II, Congress repealed all the Exclusion Act. However, the quotas remains, leaving a yearly limit of 105 Chinese immigrants. Foreign-born Chinese also won the right to seek nationalization after the Geary Act of 1892 renewed America's policy of excluding Chinese immigrants based on their race and class, and also required those who were already here to register with the United States government or face deportation. Chinese immigrants in the act of the mass of civil disobedience that had participated in. Nearly 90,000 Chinese immigrants refused to register by the deadline. Grinding U.S. immigration had controlled to a halt. The U.S. simply did not have the money or manpower to deport 90,000 immigrants, so it could not enforce the law. A man named Fang Yi-ting also challenged the law before the Supreme Court. But although the protest marked a high point in immigrant activism, the courts that had ruled in the U.S. did have the power to deport immigrants, even if they were long-term residents in the U.S. Following the ruling, most of the protesters relented and registered with the U.S. government, and their fights were forgotten by many years. The act established a flexible worldwide cap on a family-based, employment-based, and diversity immigrant visas. The act further provides a visas for any single foreign state in these categories that may not exceed 7% of the total availability.